Hey everybody, welcome back to another news roundup. Hope you guys been enjoying the content channel as of late. Excuse me if I just seem a little tired. Just had a long day. Just went to work and then it was Mother's Day. Went to do some things with my mom. So I just got back home. It's like 10:30 or so. Um, yeah, so I'm just getting around to shooting this. So we got a couple of topics for this week, so let's just cut this short and we're just going to dive right on in. So the big story of the week is that we actually got a preview of what the potential plans are for the upcoming film Tariffs, which we have discussed a few times on this channel, and there were some alarming developments that were made recently under the Trump administration proposing a potential 100% tariff on film productions that choose to shoot overseas instead of shooting here in the U.S. And well, it looks like we now have more of a more of an understanding as to what this plan may in fact look like. So, according to Deadline, the publication themselves, they apparently had obtained the documents that contain the upcoming proposals for the film tariffs that are being considered by the Trump administration. So, per the documents that were outlined by appointed ambassador of Hollywood, John Voight, which I believe also includes Sylvester Stallone and somebody else. I completely forgot, but apparently he's outlining John Voight. He's outlining these proposals, and these proposals include the following. So, includes a standard 10% federal tax credit on top of any available state incentives, and a 20% federal tax credit if no established state incentives are available. And with that, there's also the proposal for a 120% tariff rate for film productions that choose to shoot overseas and receive a production tax incentive or, quote unquote, could have been produced in the U.S. So basically, if you receive a tax incentive or if they just flat out just believe that your film could be produced here in the U.S., and you still choose to shoot overseas, you will have to be hit with a 120% tariff. So 20% higher than what Trump was proposing based on his tweet or his message from that social media platform. Also within that, there are tax treaties being planned out for films that were significantly shot in the U.S. but do require some level of shooting in foreign countries. So they may in fact be exempted from these tariffs, potentially based on negotiations, and through that they would be operating in these tax treaties. Some of these treaties would be negotiated first within the UK and in Canada. So just before we, just as we've laid out before about, these regards with tariffs, none of these proposals have been initiated. None of them have been confirmed yet. None of them have been executed yet. So it still remains to be seen how they're going to go about this. But the one silver lining within these plans that have been outlined is the federal tax credits that are going to be given on top of any available state incentives. I mean, those are obviously things that people have been desiring for a while, especially, tax incentives. That's been something that I've been reading that a lot of productions have been wanting because it helps alleviate the cost of material and just their general production. Don't have to worry about costs going up significantly. So seeing that there will be some kind of increase, it's definitely, at least from what I've seen, what people have been requesting a lot. But the consequences to considering shooting overseas, I think, is absolutely absurd. If a production were to take advantage of a tax incentive, say, that applies to the U.S., and then they decide to shoot abroad with that tax incentive, I mean, I can understand why you terminate that tax incentive, right? Because it's now you're doing business outside of the US. So utilizing a tax incentive that's purely made for the US only, I can understand why you'd want to terminate that kind of negotiation. But to list out punishment because of just them literally shooting overseas, especially in the form of these tariffs, I think it's just putting pressure on American productions to stray away from foreign nations and just accepting the rates that are available in our own states, in our own countries, or our own counties. It's basically controlling companies and giving them less of a choice, even if the rates outside of the US are much better for their productions. And it's all to, in Trump's view, basically, quote unquote, maintain the culture, which hasn't been affected in the slightest. If anything, shooting abroad actually strengthens the culture because it's showing people that there is more unity to be found and also better opportunities to be discovered that aren't just hindered on the parameters of the United States. It builds better relations. And I think that like to fail to see why people don't want to shoot in the US altogether, it's not just because of the culture wars or whatever he wants to frame it as. It's not what's at stake here. It's about just literal cost of material and cost of working in places. That's just what it is, And these are nice, steps towards, progress with providing, tax credits and, incentives and stuff like that, or at least, providing these tax credits on top of any available state incentives, which, the next step would probably be more state incentives to better persuade companies. But this whole mentality of maintaining the culture, it just doesn't make any sense, especially because U.S. theaters always showcase more films from U.S.-based companies than the other way around. So it's a very moronic rationale that it's going to see damages made on film productions here in the U.S., and it's going to give less incentives for people outside of the U.S. to seek out distribution. I mean, as right now as it is, it's already difficult, and it wasn't even discussed in these documents and how that's going to be either resolved or what the consequences are for them, which pretty much there already is consequences already because of just the high tariff rates that are already applied to China, which is the second biggest film market in the world. So yeah, I mean, I hear the tariff rates are supposedly now coming down. Gee, I wonder why. Wouldn't have anything to do with the stock market crashing and other things, probably. Who knows? But it's just absurd. It's basically a form of dictatorship, and I'm pretty sure, like, something in this degree, especially if stuff with China going down is actually happening, I'm pretty sure it's not going to come to pass. I'm pretty sure it won't. If it does, and it does include these kinds of tariff rates, then there's no way that we can blame studios as the reason why production costs are higher anymore, or why things are more expensive, or why, why movies all of a sudden are, having to collect more costs because of it. It's no longer their fault. They're basically at the mercy of this current administration, and it's pretty gross. Because essentially what these proposals are doing is that they're giving productions a bone, whereas overseas are willing to give them the meat itself. And the U.S. is saying, you can't eat that. We'll tell you what to eat, but you can't eat that. I think that's just pretty pathetic. So hopefully this doesn't come to pass. Like I said, I have doubts. I really don't think that something like this is really going to come to fruition. I'm pretty sure there's going to be pushback. I know that studios are going to have meetings, or are currently seeking meetings with the administration to see how this is going to plan out. But I don't think this is going to come to pass, especially with just how things with China right now are apparently unfolding. So But we'll see what happens. We'll just have to wait and see. Now to have an additional story in regards to film tariffs, and to just further illustrate the stupidity of this whole thing. According to a recent press conference that was held at the White House, President Donald Trump, who was responding to a question relating to the James Bond franchise, amidst all these discussions going on about film tariffs, he apparently revealed that the series James Bond will remain untouched in relation to the tariffs. So there is your first confirmed exemption from these, like, the slate of films that are to be released sooner or later. James Bond apparently is not going to be affected, and if you're wondering what the reason for it is, it's not because the film generally is made overseas and then it seeks out, because remember, James Bond is now owned by Amazon, and Amazon is, well, a US based company, and they would absolutely need to shoot overseas predominantly, like almost entirely. It's not because of that. It's not because of just literal things that need to be happening for James Bond. No, the reasoning behind the exemption, per the answer to the question provided by President Trump, is apparently due to a personal connection with the deceased star Sean Connery, who apparently helped in getting the president land, I guess, to some of his golf courses back in the day. Yeah. I mean, if these are the attitudes towards negotiations, if it's just purely based on established connections with the president, it's extremely clear to them that it's going to be a very selective system that's going to have both a bias and a cherry-picking mentality, which is incredibly unfair and unprofessional in managing such a system. I think this whole system is just wrong to begin with, but if you're going to manage it right. It stems purely from your relations to him, not what is valuable towards your production. It doesn't matter if the foreign nations offer better rates. You'll take what you can get here in the US. And maybe, just maybe, if he likes your work, you might be exempted from the whole thing. Or if he likes you personally. If not, then you may have to be prepared to take a more costly rate or a massive tariff rate if you choose to shoot abroad. Like, that to me is just silly. That is just so stupid. And, hopefully I'm framing it wrong. I mean, maybe someone could let me know. I just saw that, and I was just like, and I saw the video, like, I saw his response to it. It's like, I don't know how else you could frame it that, other than him just basically giving that franchise a pass because of his past relationships with Sean Connery, who we all know Sean Connery to be such a great guy, especially towards women. If you've seen his interviews, you know what I'm talking about. He has such a great view on women. But yeah, just dumb. Not from any practical reasons. It's just, hey, I like Sean Connery. Sure, why not? Let's give James Bond a pass. Real stupid. It just further illustrates the kind of moronic nature of this whole tariff, this whole trade war, and specifically with this with film tariffs. So. Alrighty, we got a couple of trailers to discuss for this week, and then we're going to call it a day. So the first trailer we're going to discuss is the teaser for The Conjuring Last Rites. This stars Farrah Farmiga, I think that's how you say her name, Patrick Wilson, Mia Tomlinson, and Ben Hardy. It's being directed by Michael Chavis, who is fairly involved in the Conjuring franchise. Done films such as The Curse of La Llorona. Did, of course, the last Conjuring film, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And most recently did The Nun 2. This has a release date for September 5th, 2025, and to be perfectly honest, I don't seek out these kinds of films, mainly due to my own anxiety. I'm not into the whole jump scare type of horror. I like my horrors actually more subtle and more, um, just, a little bit more, just mysterious. That being said, when I do gamble with a film like this, I'm able to detach from my own anxiety. I'm able to judge it, as it is. Even if I am in an anxious state, I can see if the filmmaking is actually well made or if it is just me. I'm able to make that distinction. And as far as what I've seen from this trailer, it seems a bit lackluster. I mean, don't get me wrong, this will be profitable because the series is always low budgeted. I mean, look at how many films they've made. I mean, they kind of borrow the Blumhouse mentality, which is just make these for dirt cheap, and it's always a good judgment. So I could see this doing fine just for that alone, but I also see that maybe the series has lost some steam because it's been how many years now and how many films related to The Conjuring have been made? There's been a lot. So I just don't know if the series still holds up. I just don't know if people will be it'll do fine, right? It'll do fine financially, but I just can't say that people are going to come out of it saying that this was particularly good, you know? I don't even think that people love the last Conjuring film, if I remember correctly. So, um, yeah, so they're framing it as the last one, and I think that goes for. I think that that's kind of illustrates more to the point that maybe they're realizing that the series is losing steam. So just you know, I think you'll end up doing fine, but I just don't see a whole lot of appeal. I don't care for. I've never seen any of the films. I've never seen any of the Conjuring films because, like I said, it's not my kind of film. But for what those kinds of films do, I just don't think this one looks particularly fresh or scary. So, all right. Next trailer we're going to discuss is for the teaser for Highest to Lowest. This is the remake to the Kurosawa film High and Low, which we did a review on this channel, and I absolutely adore that film. This stars Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright, Alphonse Hadera, and the rapper A$AP Rocky. It's being directed by Spike Lee, of course. You guys know Spike Lee did films such as Do the Right Thing, which I love the script for that, by the way, one of my favorite scripts of all time. Inside Man, as well as Malcolm X. This has a release date also for September 5th, 2025, coming out Apple TV Plus. Just want to verify on that date real quick because I don't know if that was an error on my part. No, coming out September 5th. So, it also has a limited release August 22nd. So it'll be released theatrically August 22nd, and then 2 weeks or so later, it'll be popping up on Apple TV Plus. So, like I said, this is a remake, or at least as it appears to be, more as just a blueprint of sorts. Just using the concept of High and Low, and them kind of pretty much doing their own thing. Even though it's hard to gauge, sorry, I just moved my microphone. Even though it's hard to gauge the craftsmanship itself based on such a small tease, it's a very, very small tease. The idea of remaking a film made by Akira Kurosawa, which I personally believe to be the greatest filmmaker who's ever lived or will live, and then applying this modern and flashy aesthetic, which pretty much, does line up to Spike Lee's general style as far as I can see it. I'm not super familiar with Spike Lee. I know of a few of his movies here and there, but I've not seen a whole lot of them. I've seen Do the Right Thing, which I think is great. Outside of that, think I've seen like one or two other ones, but I've never seen like Inside Man, Malcolm X. Never seen any of those. But as far as style goes, like I can pick up on an idea of how Spike Lee likes to operate. Oh, I did see Defy Bloods. I've seen that one. But it just makes me wonder why this isn't bearing another title. Like, why does this have to be in relation to that film? Because outside of a few little snippets of inspiration, like the train scene, when they transfer the money, that seems there, and other things here and there. Like, there really is no reason that this should be in relation to that. Like, it's inspired by it, sure, but to suggest that this is a remake of that masterpiece, it just makes me groan. Just because again, it's a little small snippet, but it just doesn't really hit the same. The original was super isolative. This seems more expansive, and I just don't like that change in spirit. So, but I'll reserve full judgment until we get another trailer. For now, I'm a little disappointed. I mean, I was expected to be, honestly, because I just don't think that you should be touching Kurosawa. Just let him do his, just do your own thing at this point. Be inspired, sure, but don't try to remake his movies. And I know, Seven Samurai became the Magnificent Seven. Different mentalities back then. We're in a very different time period now, and I just don't like the modern framing of this type of film from this specific kind of filmmaker. So, yeah, so I'll have to wait to see another trailer. Hopefully it's just the trailer, but we'll see. I'm not particularly happy with the idea of remaking any of Kurosawa's films. It just doesn't really sit well with me. So, and finally, we have the official trailer for Together. Now, we talked about this trailer, and I thought this trailer was really freaking good. I just by edit, I thought it was a really good trailer. This is the horror film that stars Alison Brie and Dave Franco. It's written and directed by Michael Shanks in his directorial debut. And it has a release date for July 30th, 2025, so not too long from now. And now that we have a better look at the film, because, the tease was for what it was like a little small snippet. Now we have a much more fully trailer, big trailer. And sorry, it's getting late. We have a better look at the film now. I'm actually surprised to discover the potential within levity and humor, because I was actually expecting this to be more somber in its approach. Based from the trailer, as the first teaser, I thought this was going to be a lot more serious and less variety by tone. But in this case, you do get your flavors, but I also do think that it also potentially can make the viewing more sensitive than solid, because that side of the story, that being the humorous parts, I feel like it may in fact make the metaphors and the tropes more apparent than if it were to lean in a different direction, because it seems more blatant that, there's this idea about bondage and connections. In this case, they're taking that idea in a much literal approach. I just feel like the more lighter sides of its storytelling, I feel like will actually make the visual varieties or the visual depictions a little bit more apparent and a little bit more on the nose, potentially. I don't know. Because if you were to take it a little more seriously and cement it more in kind of a somber type of mood, I feel like then you're kind of giving a little bit of shielding and padding towards the metaphors themselves. At least I feel that that's what it could be. But that all being said, I'm still interested. It looks promising. I just worry that the variety and tone may make its story less authentic and more shallow as a result. But could be wrong. I'll try to seek it out. I'll definitely try to seek it out. So yeah, definitely looks interesting. We'll see what some of the reviews say once we get close to the release. But as far as I can tell, anyway, looks decent. Looks definitely promising. So But yeah, those are my thoughts for this week, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. A little bite-sized one for this week. Just mainly just talking about the tariffs, just because that's pretty much what anyone's talking about right now. But you guys, what are your thoughts on all things relating to the tariffs? Just keep it film-centric. I know it's hot button issues, but just keep it in the realm of film, guys. What were you guys' thoughts on the Conjuring trailer? Your thoughts on the highest to lowest trailer? Very interested in what you feel about that. And of course, the trailer for Together. Let me know all your thoughts on all these topics in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.